Oh, hello there. You might be wondering why I'm recording this when I already, supposedly, hypothetically, maybe, already streamed this in a capacity that really doesn't warrant re-recording. I wasn't happy with that recording, and I also have some personal hang-ups that really make me... Let's just say I forgot the entire stream, which is not very healthy. In addition, I feel I was a bit more distracted than usual, which is the kind of stuff that just makes you want to give it another go, you know? Like, I give this stuff a lot of shit, but, you know, people make their own passion projects, and they put them out in the world where people can look at them and laugh and point, and similar to the art of criticism, well, every art, really, all art is defined by the fact that you as a person are throwing yourself out into the world if you publicize it for anyone to see. At that point, that deserves a modicum of respect. On the other hand, I'm still extremely jealous of this motherfucker getting all this attention for what is essentially a rag. And if you know that I'm saying that, and saying this is the... I forgot to loop this, how professional I am. But to say that, and still consider this the nicer version, I think says a lot about where I was in that stream, which you will not find. If you do find that stream, tell me. I just want to see it. I just want to talk. I have no ill intent. Let's get going, and not delay too much longer. I'll keep my comments to a minimum. I wanted to say because they're on the stream, but the truth, Miss Katsuraki, the truth is, it doesn't really matter. Sunday was here. Also, I had like major throat problems after like halfway through that episode, through that stream, and it just screwed me up real bad in a way that, ugh. Again, I forgot most of it, so it's just not a very good stream. Should have just cut it off early, but you know how it goes. Sunday was here. Olivia and I quietly waited as I sat on the couch. Dad still finding his breakfast as Mom cleaned the plates. Still finishing his finding, really? I wasn't sure what I was feeling at the moment. Nervous? Excited? Dreading? I pointed this out before, but the actual version he's looking for is just dread. Because that, you know, that's just how that works. I've also mentioned this is not a particularly grotesque mix. The problem I have is I understand that some people might take, oh, grotesque, you know, it's a very bad mixture. But grotesque means ugly, distorted, and I tend to take it as like you describe something as grotesque when it is, you know, you put a whole bunch of mix-match human bodies together and it doesn't even look like one skin shade, and it's just this weird, as I said, grotesque mixture. I would say it's a very horrifying mixture, though, because, man, you're interested, but you're not, and you're like, I don't know. I do think that dread and nervousness are a little too in line to really be two separate emotions in this context, although maybe that's the point. They're the combination of those two things. And besides, everyone experiences things differently, don't they? Regardless, this was a grotesque mix of emotions. They didn't blend too well, causing the back of my shoe to involuntarily and constantly tap against the floor. So, I have an issue here, and it's really... This is a fun writer tip. What you are describing here is the impatience. Why do you include this? Take it out, and the whole thing is a little slicker. Get that little slick on top. I will say that this chapter in general is not as poorly written. It is a lot more... It's a bit more straightforward, and it starts off with way too many smiles, but it does at least work better. Like, I'm giving this man shit when he deserves it, and this chapter, on the plus side, I think it was more me being super tired than it being especially egregious as some others were. Olivia still remained calm, and it was hard to discern what she was thinking. However, a peculiar noise caused me to perk up. The sound of a tire peeling against the pavement. Dad finishing a slow and savoring sip of decaf made by Mom as he lowered it. I feel like, again, you should probably put some commas around that because this is not part of the greater structure. It's also kind of weird to point that out. Like, it doesn't matter who made it, really. Like, you've already established that Mom and Dad are here. That being said, my real criticism is who the fuck takes a savoring sip of decaf? I've been told that decaf is something you drink because you have to. I know nothing about coffee. This is just what I've been told, but maybe I was told that by people who like the caffeinated version, and they're lying to me. Wouldn't you like decaf more as a savoring thing because there is no chemical byproduct? It is just for flavor at that point? I don't even know, man. I might have been lied to. Oh, sounds like he's here already. Yep. Actually, I said that last time, but it should be like, yep. Because he's quickly answering. Standing up as Olivia rolled forward, most of us making the way to the front door. Mom got out of the kitchen, giving an encouraging smile to both of us. I only nodded in response, steeling myself as I faced forward. I have a problem with this. This implies that Anon noticed his mom. The problem I have is, as I faced forward, implies that he's still looking forward. He does not look at Mom, which means he's walking past her, maybe? I don't know. Again, this is why... Whatever. Whatever happens, I'll be ready for it. I feel like this would work a bit better if you put a little comma right after it, because he definitely is not ready for it. Olivia activated the remote for the door, which I'm still wondering what the point is, because shouldn't there just always be someone home to open the door for her? Like, Anon is generally around. This is really forward-thinking for a scenario I don't think logically should even come up all that much. And it's not that big of a deal anyway, it's the front door. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man, but I know people in wheelchairs, they can open doors just fine. It won't kill them. Convenience, yeah, but at this point, it's just Dad who wanted it, right? You just know that Dad got this because Dad really wanted to have a remote for his fucking door, and he managed to convince everyone to go along with it anyway. Opening it to reveal the NASCAR parked at the end of the door. I always type NASCAR with an uppercase C. I don't even know if that's appropriate for NASCAR, but that's how I always do it. Oh, it's actually all uppercase. Why do I type it like them then? Because if you put the C in uppercase, then you end up with... Because it's stock car. Oh, Safi, you're such an idiot. You're such an idiot. Why don't you just dig a hole and go lay down in it? It'll do everyone a lot of favors. Huh. Wait, what is this? In 1935, Bill France Sr. established races in Daytona Beach with the hope that people would come watch the races and that racers would race for him, as other organizers intended to fleece the winners out of their payouts. This was a success. What? Man, history is weird. Anyway, they opened the front door and came outside, seeing the NASCAR in the driveway, bullet holes and all. The old engine rumbling as the door on the driver's side opened, revealing good old Naser. There was something off about the smile he gave us. Again, you could just cut out this smiling, because you're already establishing the smile later. Like, you're just doubling up, and you're not using different words. Don't do that. Just keep it streamlined, man. Cut your word count down. I know that it's... Listen, there are two kinds of bad prose out there on the extremes in terms of word count. You have, doesn't specify enough. We had this a couple of times where I've been like, okay, but where are we with this scene even? And the other is excessive purple prose, like I like to do it, where it's like, motherfucker, you do not need an entire page to set up a fucking scene in a bathroom like that. Like, use excessive purple prose when a situation is very personal or intimate, or like you're zooming in on something, or an emotion is like spilling out over an entire moment, which again, promise of a lifetime doesn't fucking do that. But you want to cut down your word count as much as you can to be slick, aerodynamic. If you're being chunky, that's because the person talking is chunky, or because you want the scene to feel chunky. Don't do it because, you know, you're an idiot. There's something off about that smile. It was awkward and uncomfortable. Also, I pointed this out. Uncomfy is a weird word to use in this context, because just say uncomfortable. Uncomfy is a word you use when you're being a little silly. You're being a little goofy, being a little playful. Not when you're just looking at a man who's about to get fucking dumped. Which gave me a priest pause, which turned into a freeze. Olivia and I were both halting in the doorway, because the passenger side was opening. Wouldn't that just be the passenger door? Again, you could use a linking word here, because the passenger door was opening, because that would explain why Olivia's pausing, instead of you standing in the way like an asshole. And a very familiar bob of blonde hair. I thought she was platinum blonde. But she's pretty pale. Whatever, I'm not looking it up right now. Served as an omen for the rest of the... I don't know how to describe this. This is purple prose, but it's in a place where purple prose is barely ever used, and it feels out of place as a result. It's being weirdly specific and, like, flowery with this, because this is a really... I could see this being, like, a great way to describe something that Anon just dreads to look at this woman. And it's like... The very slow rise is just hours for him. But it's not. That's not how the scene plays out. And that's what kills it for me. It was Naomi. What the fuck? She was giving us that typical closed-eye smile. She dragged Naser along with an arm draped over. I don't know why wrapped. It's not wrapping. You can't wrap an arm. You can wrap an arm around someone. But wrapping is like around something. A drape is over. It's a cloak. You drape yourself in a cloak, my good sir. Waving at us. Naser tried to inch away, but good luck doing that with Naomi. I resisted the urge to show my aggression. Frustration, upsetness, dread. Olivia, on the other hand, seemed... Another problem I have with this, right, is... I don't know how to tell you this, but Anon is a human, right? He was a human for so much of his life. Why would he pick up this terminology? Who taught him this? Did his parents in his baby youth tell him this so much that he's like, I'm gonna stick with this now? Because you need to remember that Anon is a man with basically two entire histories. Half of his life was as a human, and half of his life was as a dinosaur. This, again, I'm just gonna shorten this too. The author doesn't understand the plot that he is completely just digging his way around. There's a diamond mine of ideas around him, and he just digs around all of them. Now, Olivia, on the other hand, seemed unfazed, blinking at Naomi as our parents came out to greet Naser, and they were equally surprised about the new addition. Who's that? Mom asked, her head atilt. Dad, of course, knew something was amiss, his scaled eyebrows knitting together tightly, his eyes being... Also, I want to point something out. In most cases, your glasses are not below... Okay, I guess if you frown really hard and you have especially large glasses, then yes, your brows would end up behind your glasses. But for the most part, they're above it. Because, like, you can't look. You can't look through your brows, which is what glasses are for looking through. Although, admittedly, maybe it's because... No, these are big glasses. Glasses tend to go downwards more than upwards, because take a guess what you do with the downward looking. It's called reading. Hey, Mr. Hello! Naomi gush... I still love the fucking adjective. Gushfully, hell yeah. Interrupted, running past Olivia and I. It's Olivia and I, by the way. To directly greet my parents. No, wait, it would be past me. Why would it be Olivia and I, Safi? Yeah, bingus. To greet my parents. You must be Anon and Olivia's parents. I'm Naomi. Hello? She shook my mother's very limp claw before turning to Dad. Still plastered with that fake smile. Buy them 10 to the dozen at the store. Except if there was one thing I knew about Dad, it was the bullshit never got past him. I pointed this out in the stream, but this is like good stuff. This is the kind of character development I want to see. The problem is, it doesn't get used. This gets ignored entirely. Dad doesn't do shit to fix the situation or make it any better, which is the problem. Is the point that Dad trusts you enough? Because if that's the point, he should have picked up on you guys not knowing what's going on. And later Anon, like, specifically called... Like, the problem I have is your dad should do something at this point. If he's a good, responsible father. Or at least, like, stop you and go, like, hey, is this really okay, Anon? Like, just blink twice if you need help. You know? It's kind of skimping out on the fact that there's a beautiful plot point here just left on the street. Like I said, digging around the gold mines. Ignoring every vein where possible. Terra firma, minimum luck mode. The reason Olivia and I might have ever gotten away with anything, including our deflection at InGen yesterday, was because Dad trusted us enough to know that we had a good reason not to share something with him. Which meant that Dad didn't trust Naomi. Her arms remained by their side, I imagined the parents. Naomi realizing that as she slowly lowered her hand, her smile turning into something less enthusiastic as the rest of us sagged along. Edward adjusted his glasses, asking the most simple of questions. Who are you? Naomi naturally was taken aback by that. She rebuilt her facade, closing her eyes to answer. I'm Naomi's... And what I meant is, who are you to Anon and Olivia? Which is a fair question. I was under the impression that it was just going to be them and Naser. I never heard them mention you before either. I think in either here would be good to establish that, like, they've never brought up Naomi. I don't know if they did. I don't care to look back. But I feel that that makes this better. If they did mention them before in some capacity, you should probably elaborate that context. Like, I never heard them talk about you in a way that, you know what I mean. It's a moment, like, you might say, what does it matter? That's called subtle storytelling. That's how you drop some cool world-building details without having to explicitly spell it out. You take a sentence and you just finesse it. Dad flashed a disarming grin, as if he was just joking around. But I could tell he was not happy at Naomi. You know, for a guy whose entire thing is apparently social engineering, he's really bad at hiding his emotions. I mean, I guess he's known it for like 20 years. Naomi's pink scales visibly paled. I don't know why, but I think that reads awkward in some way. Reopening her green eyes. The problem I have with this, right, is her eyes are not green. Her eyes are white, and there's green on their irises. Like, Olivia has explicitly green eyes. It's really awkward when you think about it, because I'm pretty sure no one else has that. Let's look it up. Let's familiarize ourselves with the characters a little more. Hold on. This will take a hot minute. God, I fucking hate how they did the art in this, because it's like, oh, good job. You found the character. Let's look at two characters that are, like, the most obvious for this. Let's take Les. Yeah, Liz's eyes are white. I think it's called the sclera. Let's look it up. Also known as the white of the eye, the sclera. So yeah, her eyes are white. Let's take a look at Damien. Because Damien's a character. He's a person that exists. Yeah, he also has the whites of his eyes, which is kind of what gets me here. It's like most people in this setting just have white eyes. It works for Olivia because, you know, she specifically has like she has like the weird eyes. I imagine it's because she has like double eyelids for swimming. That's perfectly reasonable. Like, her eyes are white, it's just that we never see them without the extra lids on. Oh, whatever she had planned, nothing was going according to it. Naser not exactly rushing to explain Naomi's presence either. Much more preoccupied with Olivia, it seems. Whatever that apologetic gaze was about, Dad took note of it, further exacerbating how much he was going to scrutinize Naomi's presence, and then does nothing about it like a fucking idiot. And for a moment, I was content to let Naomi sweat beneath the gaze of my suspicious father. But alas, Olivia rolled forward, shrugging nonchalantly. Screw you, can come along, Naomi. Now, you have to remember, the reason Olivia does this is she wants to break up with Naser. So there's like a whole... That's her angle, is like, okay, then Naomi can do all the don't worry about it Naser later down the line. Like, Olivia has a reason to do this. The problem I have is, like, Dad should have picked up on that fact that Anon is like, this is bad, and Olivia is kind of like, it's fine. I don't know, man, cut your losses, cut your difference, and you're like, yeah, she needs to go, probably. 50-50. Naomi backed out of the tent. It was not really a conversation. I would like to point out they barely actually had anything. That was just like an interrogation. Naomi backed out of the interrogation, having met her match. I don't know if it's a match, man. I think he's way past that. If only because he's, you know, the dad. Don't let him find out about the band. She bowed her head meekly, following behind the other two. Following behind... Why would she follow behind Olivia? As Naser turned to my parents, Mom already gushing as she stepped from the doorway. Oh, Naser, my goodness, how much you've grown. Raptor Jesus, what have they been feeding you? It's good to see you again, Mr. and Mrs. Eggles. And you too, dear. Feels like yesterday the meteor will happen and you were still dating. Naser froze up, naturally starting to blush very vibrantly at the momulan accusation. Well, I wouldn't say that. Imagine I should help her into the car. He turned around, good wing awkwardly trying to flap away. What? Listen, I don't want to hear about his wing erections, okay? I think this guy's also kind of overplaying it, right? Like, I get what he's going for, but I think, in general, this narrative has really overemphasized the dinosaur angle of everything in a really uncomfortable way. Like, I get it. You got a slightly different anatomy, but remember that Snoot Game and Wani have been a bit more downplayed with it. This is, like, the biggest gag of them all, and they kind of toy with that, but for the most part, Damien's fins are like the big thing, and they're logical. You know, they're part of his face. That's where all the structure would be. But I don't know what to tell you, man. Wings are giant. They're big. They're heavy. They're not something you just kind of flick around like a tail. Also, tails are like balancing things. They are near constantly in tension. I guess wings would flap easily. But why would you... The problem I have is, like, with wings, it's like saying your arm suddenly spasms to the side. It's like a really weird limb to just throw around the place. Especially since... Well, I guess with flight or fight responses. But that's like saying you start running off out of nowhere. You know, it kind of over-exaggerates the situation. It's a big gesture for a small thing. The tail, on the other hand, is low, it's behind you, it's more of a subtle thing. Whereas the wing is like a massive part of his character portrait, if you really think about it. Although Dad was more at ease, he still had that unsure touch. Anon, it's none of my business, but are you friends with this Naomi girl? He shot another glance at Naomi. I could tell she was being insincere. I took a moment to think about it. I should probably alleviate some of his worries if Naomi was going to be a constant. What are you talking about? Like, why would she be that? Isn't this like the perfect moment to cut it off and like make her not a constant thorn? Like, Dad, I would prefer I don't have to be around her, and then you just, you know, you're allowed to not be friends with someone, Anon. It's fine, Dad. Naomi isn't the worst company. Because that was the best I could say about her. But it seemed to be good, though. Dad sighing, Mom smiling. Well, anyhow, make sure to have fun. Yeah. We'll be back before dinner. Dad and Mom waved goodbye as I ran over to join Naser, the pterodactyl currently standing close to Olivia as she buckled herself in. You all buckled in? By the way, this question implies that they are sitting in the car and they're ready to drive off. Which to me is like, why are you asking this beforehand? Like, Naser, you do know... I guess he doesn't. That's like the whole point. I kind of like this. I feel that if we had Olivia as a POV, We could extrapolate. We could further elaborate this thought that is currently happening in our head. But again, the author is too much of a goddamn coward to write the POV that the story actually needs to function. And I don't know, man. I don't know why he does it. I would like to point out, I've had this problem myself. I've had a couple of stories where I'm like, I want to have this POV, and it doesn't work. This POV does not. It just makes more questions than answers. And then later, I had one where I was like, I really need another character's POV, because otherwise, all these scenes, you need more context. The person reading needs more context for the scene to hit. Yep. Came Naomi's chirpy voice from the shotgun seat, much to Naser's chagrin. Olivia, however, picked up the slack. Don't worry about me, dude. You shouldn't have to anyways. I like that Olivia is there constantly just staring forwards, like she's in fucking shock. I'm in the middle of the issue she's breaking off with someone she met for like a couple of months back in 7th grade. I would like to point out that this romance they have is really weird when you put it in context. Like, chapter-wise, it seems to happen one after another. But in context, there have been several years in between this, and she has not moved on in any way, shape, or form. And she's just breaking off. I'm like, how did this stick? Like, in Promise of a Lifetime, that's the whole point of the story, right? That's the conceit of the story, is that Anon and Fang made this big promise, and now they're coming together. I get that. That's the big fluff moment. Fine. That's the conceit of the narrative. But here, it's like, it's trying to be way more Anon moving through life, and you have this I don't know, it feels a bit too much. It hasn't established itself in a way where I feel it would make sense. This makes more sense if they had, like, cute little back and forth on the email or something. Which is funny, because, Promise of a Lifetime does address the whole, like, why didn't we just send emails? Or text? Or call? We have phones. And they point it out as just being awkward fucking kids, which is fair, because I imagine kids like that, you know, they don't have their own discords, maybe. Naser blinked with brief confusion. Olivia closed the door, standing back up to... Yeah, I'm not fucking up the sentence. Olivia closed the door, leaving Naser to blink with confusion. She stood up straight and noticed me approaching. Hey, Ann, I'm ready to... He didn't seem to notice my expression. Since, well, I nodded to you-know-who. He let out a sigh and shook his head. I know! Bro, what the fuck happened? Naser got us behind the car, a private area where we could actually speak up. I thought you said you cancelled the study session. I thought so too. But Naomi just showed up at my house and she wanted to come along. I mean, was I supposed to say no? Yes! I made a joke here that's like Three Stooges level of like, what? I should have said, but I said yes. It's like, no, I told you to say yes. I mean, Naser rubbed the back of his neck. I mean, I guess I should have, but I still feel kind of guilty about canceling my study session with her. She seemed all excited about it, but, and I'm really sorry. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Admittedly, this is one of those situations where I'll give the whole pausing, like, this is where a character pauses, because he is doing a turnaround. Also, Naser, you canceled the study session to not be with her. Why did you invite her anyway? Like, that's the big problem with this. Oh, I'm going to cancel having this other person around to take her along anyway. Who, by the way... Never mind. I let out a sigh, knowing it wasn't his fault too much. Odds were Naomi was trying to get something out of this too. It's fine, Naser. Just give us a call or a heads up next time. Or like anything. I don't know, man. This seems like a big change of plans. He gave a very slow and sad nod back. I tried to look on the bright side of things. At least I'd have a chance to talk to Naomi, right? But I wondered if Naomi would even be able to get in conversation with me. He was looking... Wait. I took a look through the car window and noticed that Olivia was still staring forwards. I like how Olivia isn't doing anything. She's just in coma for much of this. Would Olivia really go through with what she told me? Yep. Scratch that. I know Mom told me to have fun, but it seemed like any positives I tried to consider if the situation came up short. Well, your mom tried to reassure you that, like, hey, maybe they'll break up and they'll realize it's a bad idea and come back together again, which is exactly what happens. And it is exactly as lame as it sounds. Because they don't even go to another chapter. They just, in the same chapter, make it right back up. And your mom told you about this. So why didn't you just recall those words instead? Outlook not so good. Dispersing those thoughts... Why did I think... for a moment, I was like, isn't dispensing a bit? No, it's not. Dispersing those thoughts for now, I turned back to Naser. So, what's the plan? Well, first I'll take you guys close to my neighborhood to get some lunch. This plan, by the way, is ridiculous. Why are they going to a completely separate part of town just to get some lunch and then go to a mall, which probably has a food court? I don't know, man. It's got the biggest arcade in all of Caldera Bluffs. It's also an arcade, because, you know, it's a Galleria. It's both. How much of this mirrored the time we bought Naser back out in 7th grade? When the pterodactyl seemed to bank on as he excitedly whispered, "And I made my decision, Anon. I'm gonna ask Olivia out," he whispered, staring directly at Olivia with those bright golden eyes. Why are you describing them as bright golden? You've always called them golden, and now you're adding these cute words where it's like, Anon, just fucking kiss him already. I managed a small stutter, naturally not too excited about this prospect. What I thought you were so confused about your feelings. Well, not anymore. I've had some time to think about it since our talk, and these days I've been with Olivia. The days I've been with Olivia have made my thoughts on the matter more clear than they've ever been. He nodded with determination. I love her, Anon. Her being back with me just made me realize that I never stopped since 7th grade. The problem I have with this is, if this isn't a comma, this sentence doesn't work as well. Because what did you never stop? Loving? You never stopped loving, but your sentence structure doesn't imply that properly. So I want to be with her again. Naser, it's been like 4 fucking years. Grow up. Despite the warm sun, my scales couldn't have felt colder than they were right now. My shoulders hit with a weight that this one I hate as well. There's a weight I couldn't see. Yes, it's a metaphorical weight. Why would we assume it's something we can see? Like, I know what you were going for. You were trying to make a contrast, but fuck that contrast, man. Just keep going. Guilt. So crushing that I just wanted to tell Naser, warn him and guide him to what was potentially to come. The only future I could foresee was filled with heartbreak, a type I would never wish on anybody. All it would take would be to meddle in matters, but it didn't feel like the right thing to do, and part of him was begging me to not do so. I just ended up making things worse in the end. I mean, you can draw parallels to Naomi here, but I don't think he does. Which is really weird, because, like, Naomi's right here. After Jesus, this is also tiresome. Despite my miracle experience of knowing what should come next, how would you know? I would like to point out that Naser and Naomi get together in the end. That's if you're talking about that, or the admission. Like, the miracle experience, I imagine, is about, like, the reincarnation. In which case, no, you don't. Plot has already significantly changed. You've done a lot of damage already, buddy. I was completely and utterly unsure what to do. The window of the passenger side opened. Naomi called out, "Hey, when will we be other-way?" Although she seemed to say it politely, I could sense her impatience, the giddiness in her voice. I don't know what it is, but this guy really seems to he loves going with definitive articles like the, instead of pronouns, which you can use those to, color it in. It's her impatience, not the impatience. Because, I get it, it's the impatience and giddiness in her voice. That's the pronoun we're going for. But you could go with, you can sense the impatience, and then you sort of make it a break-off sentence, like a train of thought that he's following. So it's incorrect because that's just how his thought process is going. I don't know. Because we're dealing with present tense, except sometimes we don't. It's really weird. I don't know what the tense is in the situation. I think the author is used to past tense and just doesn't know how to handle it properly from time to time, which is, fine, but come on, man. Batter up. Yep. All I could do was watch as he climbed into the front. I saw Olivia looking at me. I gave her my most reassuring smile. The baryonyx just analyzed me before staring right ahead again. Well, frowns are back. I like how... Okay, so I have a big problem with this. Deep in thought. We are in your thoughts, Anon. These are your thoughts. There is a reason why in Wanigator, Inko specifically calls out in Ending 1 that he doesn't have any more deep thoughts to give. Because, man's fucked up. I sat down atop the worn leather seats. I always imagined they'd be faux leather. The NASCAR somehow between fancy and beaten up. What appeared to be a taped-up bullet hole in the driver's side window. I don't think it's on the driver's side window. I think it's on a windscreen, which is not the same thing, actually. Hold on. Would it just be called the NASCAR? Did they have the guts for that, or is it just called car? Where is it? Where is it? We should be in backgrounds, right? That's where you put a background. Trish Home Theater, Science Class, Anon Room, Roof, Reunion, Prom, Parking Lot, Park Fair, Night, Outside. Maybe it's somewhere else. Oh no, it's a CG, right? Yeah, it's a CG because because Naser's in the car. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Oh, where is it? It's a CG because they don't really use it for character stuff. They just use it as a background, a backdrop. There it is, the NASCAR. Yeah, that's not the driver side window. That's just the windscreen on the driver's side. Which again does imply that whoever was in there got shot in the chest, neck, or head. It's the taxi. Oh, there's the taxi. Man, I like that guy. He does not have black eyes, though. His eyes are brown. Which is important for later, actually. NASA turned on the ignition, the car purring to life. I turned back to Olivia again, but she's still just staring away. Taking a look in the rearview mirror, I just see Naomi staring at me. Is everyone here just gonna stare at things? Ugh. I thought just a few days ago this outing was gonna be great. Fate was a bitch. So that's the setup. We didn't get too far, but don't worry, this will only be a few parts.